All right, it's time for Yogi and the Beachman. Hi, I'm Jim the Yogi.
And I'm Rick Beach, the Beachman.
We're two Michigan transplants now living in Southwest Florida.
In fact, we're cousins born in 1964, just a month apart.
I like to meditate.
And I like to play bass in a band.
I'm into chanting Om.
And I'm into throwing down some classic rock.
But together, we're on a mission
to promote people that are helping other people.
We want to make the world a better place.
One conversation at a time.
So sit back,
turn up the volume,
and get ready to laugh.
Because we like to have fun
while we spread the love.
Interviewing lovely people, yes, we have fun.
So you guys met at the pickleball courts?
Yeah.
Yep.
Where? Which ones were you at?
The Plex.
At the Plex. And you've been playing out there a while?
You know, I just got here November 1st. So,
Okay.
I'm a newbie down here.
I'm just wondering if either one of you guys know Carla Thorne.
No.
Mm-mm.
You're a newbie down here?
Yeah. It's my first year down here.
I
Oh,
didn't
cool.
realize that.
Yeah.
From
Traverse City, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking about you guys in Detroit, and I spent 2 years living right off Southfield Road in Beverly Hills area.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you know where that is?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And then moved over to Grand Rapids. And then
Yep.
life got really interesting once I got to Grand Rapids. So,
I lived in Stanwood for about a year
wow. What were you doing in Stanwood?
in Canadian Lakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I had a house up there for a year.
Nice. Sweet.
It's a long story with an ex-girlfriend I'll get into with you some other time.
Yep.
So what's the name of your book, and then once it get started?
Yeah, sure. Name of the book is A Guide for Midlife. And the subtitle is, it's a lot.
You're right.
Navigating the 6 universal crises.
Okay.
And when I read your bio earlier today,
Mhm.
I was reading it and I'm like, yeah, for middle-aged people between 35 and 54, I'm like, wait a
56.
minute. I thought I was still in that middle-agedness. I guess not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the book is relevant for anybody born between 1939 and 1979. That's when I did all of the math for the astrology to let people know exactly what age they were going to be at each one of their midlife crises.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
Yeah. Neat.
Well, bring that point back up and we'll get rolling.
Yeah. Welcome back to Yogi and the Beachman. Today we are with McKenzie Magee. McKenzie is an international facilitator of psycho-spiritual integration and soul-centered astrologer, and she's an author. So welcome to our show, McKenzie. I know you like to go by Mac, so we'll call you Mac. I'm Jim the Yogi.
Okay.
And I'm Rick Beach, the Beach Man. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah,
Hi
we
to
really
you both.
appreciate
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
It's weird and serendipitous how you guys met. What, just yesterday?
Yes.
And we're always looking for guests. And
Mhm.
Jim tells me, he said, hey, are you available tomorrow night? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why? What's up? Well, and then, go ahead. You
Right.
tell it then how you guys met real quick.
Oh, you had this really cool sweatshirt on. I forget the text on it. Something Zen City, I think, or City Zen. And I just mentioned the shirt, and you said I'm a meditator, and then it went from there.
That's right in
So
our
it's interesting
wheelhouse.
about that sweatshirt, because the sweatshirt says Zen City Earth, right?
Earth,
And
yeah.
so these are very, very, if anything defines me, it's not so much the city. I wish that all cities would turn into Zen centers.
Yeah.
Would be great. But the earth and how we relate to the earth is a really big deal about what is going on the planet today. We can talk about that later.
Well, I'd like you to tell us what an international facilitator of psycho-spiritual integration does, what that means, how your
Sure.
work has evolved.
Okay. So in a nutshell, psycho-spiritual integration is a form of healing that is facilitated by a facilitator for those people who want to come to the work to explore, heal, self-limiting themes in their life, and to really go deep into the self, to contact the soul, the higher self. These are the energies that we work with that are beyond the ego. And that is why it is called transpersonal, beyond the personal, beyond the ego type of work. And it is very deep inner work. So all of the modality takes a person, a client or a student, and sets a setting in which they can go inward, guided by a facilitator, to allow the ego to relax aside and to deepen their awareness to a high state of awareness, so that the energies of the higher mind can take over. These are very high vibrational, high frequency events that lead the client into a journey, an inner journey. And
it sounds a little bit like hypnosis almost.
well, that's a good point. And it's not hypnosis, because it is opposite of hypnosis. The people who come to this work, the whole point is that they are so actively engaged in a very high state of awareness that is extremely focused and undistracted from the way that the higher self comes in, as a personification, as a feeling, to literally help them journey into those themes that need to be placed back in balance.
Well,
These
and
are
you said something
self-limiting things like, yeah. Do you understand that?
Well, yeah, and I wrote down a couple things, and you just repeated it.
Sure.
Self-limiting themes. What a third grade version for me, please.
Sure. So let's say that a person has problems in relationship that short circuit them because they're carrying around fear of abandonment or something like that, or guilt or shame, or any of those things that keep a person in the status quo, which are, of course, our ego would very much like us to stay, right? Just stay in the status quo, don't grow, don't expand, don't look at that theme. And so what happens is that the higher self comes in on the journey, and the inner journey, and by its voice, by its direction, takes the person into a symbolic experience of the roots of the events that brought them this particular piece of self-limiting theme that kind of runs through their life, and helps them to release that theme for good and all. This work is not therapy. This work it's not hypnosis. It's where we, as participants with our higher self, can very, very gently and kindly release ourselves from these themes. This is an energetic balancing, rebalancing of, once these themes are released, then the higher self will seek to bring that person's energy back into balance, right? And these are energies, this
So
is not
does this
just
have
cognitive stuff.
over the last 6 months since we've been doing this podcast, I've been learning more about this. You're probably our sixth or seventh guest. So I probably went from third grade to like eighth grade over that time. So I'm kind of, I'm following you a little bit here. So that's kind of cool. But this really seems like it has to do with like pent up energies in your chakra stations throughout your body. Am I making the connection properly there?
Right. That's
Probably
perfect.
surprised I made that connection, aren't
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you're learning. I think
Exactly.
that's great.
Okay, so let's then talk about the chakras and how particular themes can cause particular chakras to become contracted or closed. And so let's take, for example, that someone is working with stuck creativity, fear of their own creative issue, or the inability to really give voice and expression to their creative issue. This is a second chakra issue. And so and basically the higher self knows, because of the somatic relationship that it has, it will take the person on an inner journey and take them right to that second chakra, take them right to the belly, and there will be the roots, because the body cellular memory is there. If a person is working with issues of security or safety, higher self will take them right to the root chakra and journey to basically release what's going on and show them the roots. Again, we're looking at the roots. So expunging the roots of the theme, the self-limiting theme, is the work. And it's pretty fantastic. It's magical.
One of our guests a couple weeks ago, Dominique, she had on the wall behind her, she had like a map of the chakras. So when you say root chakra, second chakra, what does that mean?
Okay, so the root chakra is the lowest or lower chakra, right where our pubic bone is. The second chakra is at our belly. And the third chakra is the solar plexus, which is where a lot of emotional body themes reside. It's where our how we use power is held in the chakra here. And then you get into the heart chakra. So you're getting, once you get above the solar plexus chakra, you're into the higher expressions of spirituality. So most of the work initially has to be, and generally is, in the lower chakras, because those really look at themes of self-limiting expression with the individual.
So I'm kind of putting this puzzle together in my head. And what you had just said was that, like, if you have those feelings of anxiety, that stuff, you're going to feel it in that second chakra, which is in your tummy, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can let that stuff, before you can work on the top half, you really have to bust through that bad energy in that lower half.
Yep, this is where what we call the lower self resides. And, you know, the Kundalini energy, which is an energy that can rise up through all of those chakras once each chakra is opened. And how it is opened is through a breakthrough of awareness and again, expunging the roots of the pattern or the theme that's held in that chakra. Then
because you really have to be, from just our conversations that we've had over the last few months, I mean, it seems like you really have to be experienced and knowledgeable to get there, though. Like Jim's talked about his Kundalini experience. I didn't even know what that was, back then. But then, and then that same guest, Dominique, this chakra girl, she was telling us about that also, her Kundalini experience. So I've done some research on that. It seemed pretty neat, and it seems like that's totally interactive with what you're talking about, or a means to an end. Yes,
but it's not.
Okay.
Not. So my experience with Kundalini, when I attended Nine Gates Mystery School with 35 other participants from all over the world, we came together to do a whole variety of healing modalities. One of them was to look at each chakra. Some students had spontaneous Kundalini awakenings and rising, and many of us did not. And so, you can work toward it, but it is more of a spontaneous in the non-practitioner, right? So you get a lot of very practiced practitioners, very experienced. Yes, they can have the Kundalini rising. However, we were wet behind the ears, and a couple of students in that class had spontaneous Kundalini rising.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
I want to
But
ask you about these
yeah, sure,
self-limiting patterns.
sure.
How do you identify them? Like if somebody can't, I'm thinking of myself, like if I were to want to do this work and I'm like, I don't really know where my self-limitations are. How do you identify them?
Right. So it's interesting who comes to the work, because this is not, as I say, this is not psychotherapy. This is the meeting of the self with the higher self. This is
Mm-hmm.
journeying to the crown chakra.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it all happens. Okay, pouring in of the energy. And so generally people come to the work when they're kind of finished with standard conventional psychotherapy, that where sometimes the ego of the person is speaking to the ego of the therapist and not much is accomplished. The themes that are resident in any individual help them find this work when nothing else happens, when nothing else works, right? So and generally, I can have somebody on my table that says, hey, I'm just fine, but I want to have an experience with my higher self. I want to integrate my higher self. I want to integrate and balance my masculine and feminine energies.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? That we put that person on the table and take them into the body, and the higher self will take them to that particular place in the body where a theme resides that needs to be healed and released. And man, is it a surprise to many, many people. So this is the wisdom of the soul that is resident there and is waiting to speak and have its voice, have its direction be welcomed in by the individual. And so people get off the table and they say, whoa, wow, I had no idea that this was going on. A lot of people come to the work with physical pain. And let's say somebody comes in with a really chronic knee problem or a back problem or a neck problem. So let's take the neck, for example. So the higher self will take them into the neck. And what we'll find is, because the throat chakra is directly connected to the second chakra of creativity, that person finds that they have always had a problem expressing their truth. And
Sure.
it is the throat chakra that's closed. And so I've been through so much of that work myself, right? Heal thyself.
Mm-hmm.
So the higher self knows exactly where to go. And it has just an intimate relationship with the somatics of the body and the cellular memory that is held in the body of a karmic theme, generally, that's brought forward through incarnations. And so, does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And it
Good.
totally
Well,
makes
how
sense.
would you, but how do you, I'm not quite sure how you get to that point though. You said if you had someone at your table and they were going through this experience, what does that consist of, and how do you make those type of observations?
You are asking some wonderful questions, Beachman. Okay, so let's understand what the setting is for this particular sacred work. That when I was doing the work for 37 years, I had a healing room, and there are a couple of places in the United States where you can go and they have those particular settings set up for people to come do their work. But I was working, at home, and also up at my cabin on 700 acres of woods. So we were very much in the earth energy and very much alone. And so picture a great big huge massage table covered with sheets and blankets. When a person comes to this work, there can be no ego identification for when they get on the table. They must come to the work without their watches, without their rings, without their earrings, without clothing. They must be stripped. of all of those ego identifications. And they lay on the table, and then
Sounds like boot camp.
oh, it's so lovely. They don't want to get off the table,
Well,
honestly.
no, I mean, but and that's the same reason they want to
Oh,
strip your
really?
identity. That's the reason why that happens in the service.
Shave
I
your
did
head.
not
Shave
know
your
that.
head. They take your clothes off. They put all your personal items in a bag, and they make you equal or unequal to the instructors, but equal to
Right.
everybody else at the lowest common denominator.
Okay, perfect. So if we equate that then with the work, what we're doing is we are doing almost a Plutonian process of stripping away all of the things that the ego holds on to identify and direct the life of the individual. This work is about, well, having the ego step aside for this work. And so that is why we do that. Then I am back away from the individual, out of their energy field, at their head, at their crown chakra, and looking down the length of their body so that I can see these energies moving out and in as the clearing happens. And then I have a piece of paper and a pen, and I take them into the body. I take them through a 2-minute meditation to get them into a state of high awareness. And then all of a sudden, what happens is the psyche, the soul, the higher self starts to be present, and it will come through in a whole personal variety of forms.
So how do you see these energies go out?
The client sees them. The client sees them because the client is, everything's happening inside.
Okay.
So the first time that I got on the table, a Tibetan Sherpa showed up as a personification of my higher self, and took me on a journey that taught me about a theme that I needed to understand and integrate into my life. And I have all of those in my book. I have every single transmission, and I write every word down. The person is speaking out the journey as it is occurring to them, and I'm writing down every single word so that they have a transcript of what the journey has been. Because
so we've come full circle here, and we're right back. I was just going to say, so basically what you facilitate this journey, and I look over to Jim in my notes, international facilitator. But no, seriously, I had to go that deep to kind of get a grip on how that all worked. But I got a better handle on it now. It's cool.
It's very hands off as far as I'm concerned. You know, I'm not touching the individual. I'm sitting in what's called a high state of presence, capital P. What makes the facilitator a good state of presence for that individual is that the facilitator has done their own clearing work over many, 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 many times with their own work. It's heal or heal thyself. Why? Because I have to sit in a complete state of neutrality to not impinge any judgments, any biases on that are impacting on the individual as they're doing their own work. And so it's very important that the facilitator do their own work first and then engage for other people as a facilitator.
So what's your success rate on stuff like this? Like if I came to you, you're local, lucky enough. So if I did, I could just get in my car and drive over the bridge. But what's this? If I came to you and said, hey, I'm having I don't know, just general malaise, fatigue. I'm 61.
Right.
I'm not that motivated for work anymore, and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I mean,
okay. Sure. So if it's important to you, the whole motivation of this work is to be free of ego, to have a relationship with flow, the creative flow. Because once you're in touch with the creative flow, vitality returns, all kinds of things happen. So if you were to get on my table and I then set my presence there for you, your higher self takes over. I don't have to do anything. This is not about success or failure, because the energies of the higher self, the higher mind, are so incredibly accurate, 100%, because they're already a part of you that you're simply, maybe for the very first time, allowing into your life. Can you imagine that, right? And so it's mind-blowing that people come to this work. I had one of my first clients in Grand Rapids was an attorney. She came to me and she said, nothing is working. She spent 4 sessions on the table. By the time 4 sessions were finished after a month, one a week, she looked 15 years younger, because she was carrying so much of these old energies and these old themes that she had no idea she was carrying around. And her vitality returned, her energy returned, her purpose returned, all of these things. These are the fracturing up of these old karmic themes. Their energies, they're very dense. And the energies and the frequencies of the higher self, of course, are extremely quick, and they fracture up the old and then basically restate the person into a state of balance. It's amazing. I'm 72. Do I look 72 to you?
No, not at all.
Sorry to let you guys know. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
And you
this
should
is,
see her on the pickleball court.
Okay.
She's a good pickleball player.
I'll invite me to join you guys. I'll show
Okay.
up. I can hang. I can hang on the
Yeah.
pickleball court.
please do. Please do.
Yeah. So, all right, we've kind of covered, I think. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the facilitating that psycho-spiritual integration? Because I want to hear a little bit about the astrology, but go
I
ahead.
have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Is this like you're getting it? If you're getting into this work, like for example, 6 months ago, I keep going that because that's about 6-7 months ago when the podcast started. I would have just dismissed this as crazy talk.
You would have.
Now I'm become so much more educated over since last year, where I not only don't think it's crazy talk, I believe that there's scientific basis for it.
Yes.
However, but until I would get to that point, I would not come to see someone like you, right? Because I wouldn't be educated enough to even think I would think it was all quack theory.
When we passed down the street, you wouldn't even see me, because your consciousness wasn't there.
Perhaps. But all this stuff rolls around and all this energy comes back around and it all works in the same way. So that being said, if I come to see you, I would have to be somewhat educated and open to this idea already. Most of the time, correct?
Yeah. This is just a matter of being willing to do what your soul is about to introduce you to and to ask you to do, that you're going to ignore the ego saying, don't do that, don't go there.
And I think it takes some prep, and you have to be ready for that. You just can't jump in and say, I'm going to change my life one day. Let's give McKenzie a call.
And
I think it would take a little bit of prep work in your head to say, okay, this really is something that I need to be conscious of and bring into my life for a positive reason.
That's right. And so where you have to be careful there, Rick, is to very, very smartly listen to the ego giving you every excuse not to do the work to regain your vitality and purpose of life. Because
it's like you just saw into my soul just there with that last comment. So I'm with you. Cool. No, I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, you shared with me on the pickleball court that you have like 30 years of experience in astrology. Was that?
Yeah, I started on the astrology when I attended, it was in 1990. So what would that be? 34 years?
35 now.
35 years, right? Yeah, part of our curriculum was to look into astrology as the blueprint of the soul as it incarnated into the personality, here's three personalities sitting at the table together, right? We're all given a map when we come into an incarnation. Most people have no idea that they have a map, that there is a map, or they can have a hope of accessing the map. And the map has all the directions. You know, it has your tendencies of weakness. It has your tendencies of strength. It has your purpose, you know, embedded in it. It has, you know, and it's got a clock on it. You know, it says, okay, you know, when you're 60, the clock is going to look like this, and there's going to be time for this. So it's very, you know, the old saying, like, you know, life is timing. Well, it's what it is.
And you're talking about a birth chart, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, you know, it starts with the natal, the birth horoscope, right?
Okay.
Which is, if you're fortunate enough to know the exact time of your birth, a good astrologer can, you know, draw your map. We have computers to do that now, high degree of accuracy.
Yeah, I've had a little experience with birth charts, and I did a birth chart on my youngest daughter, probably both of them, but with the youngest daughter, just kind of watching, because it really talked about her being a traveler and really traveling around the world, really, and traveling a lot. And she's 25 now, and the amount of traveling she's done is pretty amazing. It's like the birth chart was kind of right on with the amount of traveling she's done.
Do you know
And
what
that's just a
time,
small
what
part
time
of
of
it.
day, what time of day was she born?
Oh,
Right?
shoot. It seems like it was really early in the morning, if I remember correctly,
All right.
but I'm not sure.
So she's a world traveler, right?
Yeah,
So you want a little bit of feedback about that?
sure.
Okay. So I'm also a world traveler. There is a marker, a positioner. There's a house called the ninth house. And if there are significator planets in that ninth house of international travel, publishing, law, there will be, that individual will get out in the world, and they will use the world travel to expand their world view. In other words, it's time for her to see life as a 360 degree, from a 360 degree perspective, right? So mine's the same way. I've got my son in the ninth house, and that's all I've ever done. Is
When's your birthday?
December 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was born at 12:04 p.m., which puts the sun right up there, right up at the midheaven, right up at the top of the chart. And it's also, you know, the ninth house is also about spiritual traditions. And so you put those two things together, and my studies have included all spiritual traditions as well. So yes, the natal chart, if there's a time that, you know, can be identified as the time of birth, there's a lot you could get.
Yeah. And those are on your birth records. It's not that hard to find out your time of birth.
Yeah.
I think because there's so much, I don't know, almost like quackery, like you said, around astrology, because there's so much, you know, you're reading astrology on the back of a comic, you know, all these different sources where astrology and, you know, read your horoscope, read this, read
Well, it's
that.
certainly not accepted as a you know,
science
a valid science.
Yeah. But my point is, I do think there is a foundation for it, and, you know, it is legitimate, but I think it's kind of been corrupted by, you know,
Just commercialism.
Commercialism. Yeah. I
Like
mean,
that.
you could read 3 different horoscopes that say 3 different things on any given day, you know,
Right.
just based on the source.
And I've always, now we've been friends up to here. I don't want you to get mad at me, but but I mean,
I promise I won't.
I'm
agreeing with you guys so far.
I've kind of always looked at horror the same way as cracking open a fortune cookie. It kind of appeals to everybody's you know, that just the verbiage can make everyone feel right, and that they're talking to them about their particular situation.
Understand.
Yeah.
So would you like me to comment on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So before I was in Tokyo living with my husband as a corporate spouse in 1987. And we went over there so he could manage a company over there. And I was a buttoned up white girl from Chicago, Grand Rapids, and didn't know anything. And at exactly 37 years of age, which is the second call of the soul for everyone, I pretty much woke up to my soul saying, have you done and are you doing what you came to Earth to do? And I write about this in my book. And it led me to, as I trusted the meandering path, it ultimately led me to the institutions, the foundation that I was introduced to astrology. And once you know where your attention goes, you guys, energy flows, attention goes, there you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself in the hands of a Jyotishi, which is a Vedic Indian astrologer in Los Angeles by the name of Chakrapani Ulal. And Chakrapani came from a whole line, generations of astrologers in India. And when I was just still a green student, I think I was like 37 or 38. I got forwarded to him and he read my chart. And I was blown away. He told me exactly then what I would be doing for pretty much the rest of my life, and every single part of it has been true. Now, why was he so accurate? Is because he had the exact time of my birth, and he had where I was located at the time of my birth, and he had the date of my birth. And so the science is extremely accurate. However, the culture, the back of the magazine astrology has not done good astrologers any favors. It hasn't done the science any favors. So you just have to be fortunate enough to get into to see a person who sees the reading of someone's map, the life map, as a sacred job, because it is. I mean, you're taking somebody's soul and you're reflecting it back to that person. That's big work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to sort of put aside, and the whole Life magazine, whatever magazine you're going to read, inaccurate horoscopes, right? The culture takes you in the wrong direction, and get into the hands of someone who understands the sacredness of reading your soul's intention for you. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So if somebody knows the location, date of the birth, time of their birth, year of their birth, and they want to seek out a chart like this, is there a easy source to find information on this?
You mean to find a good astrologer who will respect the whole interface between a person, their life map, and them?
Well,
Is that what
Absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
talking about?
it sounds like you'd be able to put that just in Google in an astrology app and just have it, because if it's,
Well, there,
or does this stuff have to be interpreted?
I think there are apps. You can go online and do this, but
Right.
there's also like almost like different magazines will have different information. Some of those apps will have different information.
Right.
So
Right.
finding a legit source is what I'm asking.
Okay.
Where do you go for that?
Well,
That's right.
let me ask
Yeah.
before you answer. So if my daughter's born at 5:08 a.m. on October 1st, 1992, and you look at that, and then someone in Japan is born at 5:08 a.m. October 1st, 1992,
Yep.
and you yourself as an experienced astrologer get those two girls are those two life maps going to be the same or similar?
No, they're going to be very different
But how will you as an astrologer know that?
because
Do you
I'm
just have a
casting
time
their
and date
chart.
of,
Yep,
okay,
I'm
go ahead.
casting their chart for each of those locations,
Oh, it's location
Mhm.
dependent also, not just time and date?
Mm-hmm.
date of birth, time of birth, location of birth.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
ignorant of that third quality there.
Those three pieces are really critical. And people come to me all the time and say, I don't have the time of my birth. It's approximate. I said, I will not do this for you. I can't do this for you. I can't guess.
Yeah.
My work is so accurate based upon the accuracy of the time of birth. I have to turn people away a lot. But if somebody comes to me and says, I know exactly when I was born, I'll say, come on in, I'll do the work for you. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So if you can results be duplicated though? That's the scientific method, right? You should be able to duplicate results. So, but how would you, it's almost impossible to make that to make that happen in
So
astrology.
Rick, reframe your question.
If normally, unlike a science experiment, I'm going to do a science experiment, I'm going to get certain results, and I'm going to publish my procedures and how I did it, and then I'm going to put it out there to have someone else verify my results.
Right. So you're talking about if you give me 3 pieces of data, time of birth, location of birth, right? And date of birth, that the horoscope, the natal chart, the map that I come up with,
Right.
you take it anywhere on this planet to any astrologer, they'll come up with exactly the same horoscope.
That was my next question. If I took that same data to the guy in Los Angeles who didn't know you or anyone else, are they going to come up with the same roadmap?
They better.
If they're
Or
legit.
they're not an astrologer.
No, and I appreciate that because I did not expect that answer. I really did.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I take my work really, really seriously because you have a soul in your hands. When somebody comes to me, I have a soul in my hands.
I appreciate that you have that respect for, because yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah. So to answer my question, so then you're one of the people that would be a legit person to go to, okay? Or this Indian fellow that you met in LA.
He's passed away, unfortunately. He passed away a few
okay.
years ago. Yeah, we lost him.
Okay. So someone's listening right now, they're like, I'm really interested in this. I want a neonatal birth chart or natal birth chart. Where do they go?
Well, they contact me.
Okay.
If they're interested in now a Western chart, I do a Western astrology. I have a little bit from one of my teachers. I have a little bit of Vedic that I put into there, that I look at different things. But if they're interested in Jyotishi, I would only recommend them to my teacher. Why? Because I know him. And I know that his spiritual practice and his experience is just wide and deep and high. In other words, I will not recommend anybody to anyone unless I know them personally and that I have also experienced their work and I know who they are personally, and their spiritual practice has to be pretty dedicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you still doing this work today? Do you want?
Yes.
You want
Yeah.
people to
I'm doing a lot of astrological counseling. A lot of people come to me not just for their natal interpretation, but they're also coming to me saying, okay, I'm 50. I've just been wounded in the area of relationships. I'm lost. I need to regain my footing. I need to know where I'm standing and how to proceed ahead. They come to me for that as well.
All right. how do you want people to find you? Do you have a website?
Yeah, the website has gone to sleep because it's been so long. I published the book back in 2010 and
Okay.
sold the books out. I think I've got like maybe 2 cases of books at home.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to buy a book, I'm happy to, you know,
Ship it off.
yeah, no, that's no problem. My work right now is basically counseling and helping people to sort of get situated, get the ground underneath their feet more solid, and have them get a better sense of where they are and how to proceed forward. And also, of course, the natal chart, it's like somebody comes
Mm-hmm.
and says, I'm just spinning around. I can't really understand what my purpose in life is. I happen to be 30 years old and no problem, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
all embedded in the natal map. It's the map that the universe, that God gives you when you, at the moment of your birth, the God goddess hands it over to you. And this is where we can help a person in saying, here's your map and let's see what's in it,
Yeah.
and it's very fulfilling.
That's,
It's very fulfilling work, you guys.
I imagine. Sounds very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. So they can get a hold of me through email. Very simple.
Okay.
mckmagee@gmail.com. That's the best way right now.
Okay. That sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
I'll put that in letters on the video up there, so it makes it easy for people.
When I can't remember who we had. I think it was Dominique, but also when we had Catherine Corona on, another guest that
Mm-hmm.
talked about energies and stuff like this, and getting back to the chakra things.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
mentioned to Jim several times that I really would like to spend an hour with someone who's a chakra expert. It sounds like you are. Are you?
So I want you to be even more specific on what you want to happen.
No, what I want to happen is Jim and I can spend an hour on with an expert talking about the 7 different chakras and the sub chakras and stuff that I've learned about, but just really have touched the surface on. So really a chakra for dummies hour. Because really, because when we have someone like you on and you just touch on it or say chakra, like I
Right.
said 7 months ago, I didn't even know what that word meant.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So I'm not very progressed in that knowledge.
Of course.
However, I've taken an interest in it, and now I'm a little more knowledgeable, but I'm still in the 3rd grade level. And so if we could take some time and just start talking about these and how do you break through these, and I know it would just spin off into crazy questions like this hour did, but that's what would you consider yourself qualified to have that hour?
Of course. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Well then,
Of
perhaps
course.
you talk to my people and
That's
we'll set
like
that up.
that's like 101 to me, that's
Yeah.
101, you guys.
No,
Yeah.
because I really find it interesting, and it's such a.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, that's in my 60 years. I mean, I've never sat around, playing out with the golf, playing golf with the guys or sitting watching a football game, and the chakra subject comes up. It just doesn't happen. I mean, and even if talking, no women I've ever known have brought this up. I mean, you have to be in a circle that's kind of educated on this stuff. So it's not something that you're just going to pick up in the average day-to-day conversation. And have this basic knowledge of back from, the time you were kids. I don't have the Constitution memorized, but I have a basic knowledge of it.
Yes.
But I never even had a basic knowledge of this chakra stuff. So I don't have any basis to bounce off of.
Right. So this is, I love the fact that when I'm listening to you and you start speaking about the interest in chakras, there's energy pouring off the top of your head. I'm seeing it. And so there's something there and this is where you start. So this is very exciting to be in conversation, but also to be able to see what happens to your energy fields when you start to ask questions about what you need to know.
Well, we had this lady on, once again, Catherine Corona. She was just wonderful. I think she lived out in California. I still think about her, and we have to talk to her again too. And she talked about, she was really into meditation and taking herself to these different levels in meditative states, which I really found interesting. And every time in my very limited meditation experience, I've always just concentrated on, clear your mind, put your third eye, that kind of thing. And then she said, "Oh, you got this other thing you on the top. You want to concentrate on taking it from here to here and blah, blah, blah." I've meditated a bunch since then. And I'm not even close to being able to do anything like that. I can't even feel it. But when you just said, so I'm very interested in this topic and want to be more educated on it. That's where I'm at here.
Mhm.
I love it. I mean, how could I not love someone who is interested in where we're all trying to get to? That's
Right.
so cool to look at you and listen to you. Of course, I'm at your service. Are you kidding?
Oh, cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's really all karma that these things come together, because
And it's time.
recently I've met some people in the last 6 or 7 months. I've been going to church. I have a whole spiritual awakening. I've been entertaining the Bible and really trying to get my whole spiritual and just get my head on straight. I figure I'm 61 years old in April. It's about time, right?
Okay, so you're 60 years old?
Yeah. Well, Jim and I are a month apart. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we're cousins, by the way. So we've known each other our whole
Yeah,
lives.
that's
Yeah.
right. So, there's a couple other things too. We won't talk about those things now because there's no time. But one of my teachers at the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology was Angela Zarian, and she wrote a very interesting book for her thesis, and it's called the Tarot Handbook. And she combined Jungian archetypes with astrology, with deep um, uh, symbolic images, and the tarot. And she devised a system of being able to identify a person's life path archetypes that are so, I've been using her book for 35 years with clients, and I'm telling you, rock solid accurate. And this is just an aside, but when we get off, I want to talk to you guys about your birthdays, and I'm going to give you some information about where you are in your archetypal footpath in life right now, especially you, Rick. You seem to be asking for it in a way, right?
I might need a little more. So
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. And
No,
that'll
this
just
is-
blow your mind. It's very cool. Okay.
sounds good.
Yeah. Well, we do
Okay.
have just a little bit of time left. I'd really like to hear about your book.
Oh, okay. All right. So the first thing I'm going to say about the book
Mhm.
is that I'm not a writer. I never was a writer. I didn't intend to write. However, for years and years and years, I was facilitating the work of many people going through midlife. And when a person would come to me with midlife issues or themes that needed to be healed, I would draw their astrological chart in time for right at the time of that they were coming to me during a midlife crisis. And I would, put them on the table. We'd go in and see what was going on. And so having all that experience and looking at all the midlife crises and how perfectly they're timed to the astrological mandala, I said, when I turned 50, 50 is a very important turning point in everybody's life. It's the crisis of contribution. And it's the last crisis or juncture in the book, in midlife. And so I said, I'm going to walk my talk. I'm going to write a book. And I formulated a format for the book, and I began to write at the age of 50. And what's interesting is Pluto, which rules one's use of one's personal power as the Godhead flows through you, was going into my ninth house, transiting into my ninth house of publishing. And so I gave myself to this work for 6 years. I had to write this book.
Wow.
And it took me a long time because I was working on the farm, working with the horses, cleaning stalls, feeding, taking care of all the animals. So it took me a long time to write the book, and I published it. And I published it when I was 56. And age 56 is the third call of the soul. Every 18.6 years, you meet another tap on the shoulder from the soul. And this was my third call at 56. And I was in Santa Fe talking with some friends of mine at the Upaya Zen Center. They read the book. They said, Mac, you have to enter this book into some literary contest. I said, what is that? So I entered it into the Eric Hoffer Awards and the Indie Excellence Awards, and it won those 2 awards. One was first place, and it was also in the top 5 of all categories in the Indie Excellence Awards in Beverly Hills. And then it won the finalist in spirituality in the Eric Hoffer Awards. Now, I'm not saying that to brag. What I'm saying is that when you are true to listening and have faith and trust in these particular astrological junctures, then it is unbelievable what can happen as an outcome to being true to the mandate of your soul. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Understand
Yeah.
that? And so I published the book. It sold 10,000 copies. And it's beautiful, it's color, it's illustrated, and it's basically a travel guide. So somebody can read the book and say, you know, they describe, the format is in every chapter, what is the crisis? How old will I be when I go through this crisis? They say the crisis of authenticity, age 40 approximately. And how old will I be? How long will this crisis last? And the next part of each chapter is involved. I put in my own personal journey, inner journey work with my higher self. And so that becomes the parable. And then the other part is I interviewed many, many people to describe their own midlife crisis at that point. And so you have fellow travelers, right? Quote unquote, fellow travelers through the book. And so the book takes you through each of those 6 crises. And then it ends at the crisis of contribution at the age of 50. And so the book is highly efficient to read. It is easy to read. It is, and also, oh, I forgot the best part. So when I was writing the book, I had a couple of editors, and they said, Mac, you got to put your personal journals in there. I said, oh my God, no. I mean, that's too personal. They said, you must do that. And I did. I took a huge chance, and I inserted all of my diary into each chapter that covered each of my midlife crises. And it reads, well, it's riveting.
Well, that had to put a whole new perspective on the way the book turned out.
Unbelievable. People ended up buying the book just to read my journals.
I'm sure of it. I'm
You
sure
know?
of it.
Yeah.
To heck with the rest of the stuff. I want to see what was going on in that girl's life. And
Well, you said earlier that when you have these folks on your table and we're doing this energy work with them, you're holding their soul in your hands. When you do something like that, you're giving away your soul.
Exactly. That's the one thing that in writing I found is with authors, to me, it's extremely important, as I have found out and I have learned through this editor's advice. It's extremely important to be fully who you are and were and put it out there, because that's what human beings want. They want that to say, hey, Mac went through the death of her husband. She went through the loss of this. She went through mystery school. She had these experiences that are just, some of it's like a soap opera, right? Some of it's grievous, some of it's joyous, but the journals are riveting. Yeah. So that's the book, you guys.
You're making me want it.
You
for
said
sure.
you have a couple cases in your garage, right?
I-
You need to throw one in your trunk for JP, and next time you beat him up at pickleball.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. I've got a couple cases left, I think, out of the printing.
It's been a great hour. Thanks
It
so
has.
much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
And like I said earlier, you know, think karma happens for reasons.
Mhm.
And there's a reason that that you're local, you guys met, you get it is. And I'm really, it's been a pleasure really to meet you.
Well,
and
it's
get to know
been,
you for the last hour.
you have really helped me to do my dharma
Wow,
by calling
nice.
on me. This is where it's all beautiful, you know, and that's why any work that comes to me is not something I have to do. It's the opportunity to do my dharma. That's huge. So thank you for
Your duty.
having me on.
He doesn't. I don't think Rick knows Dharma. Do you?
I kind of gathered it.
Okay.
I inferred
Okay.
in that case.
Dharma is the path of action, is the
Right,
path
yeah.
that the soul comes through. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. Any final thoughts?
No, but let's the three of us get together
I would love that.
at some point, and I'm gonna do some I'm gonna feed you some goodies. We'll have a chat, maybe give ourselves maybe 45 minutes, you know,
Sounds
just
wonderful.
together informally. We can do it
Yeah.
here. I can do some calculations for you, and I think, Rick, you're in the second Saturn return, and I think this is a real pivotal moment for you to understand where you at and a way forward as well.
Cool.
I can give that
Yeah,
to you. Easy peasy.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much for joining us. We really appreciate taking the time to be with us and sharing so much information with us.
Namaste. Thanks for having me, guys.
Namaste. So if you just listen to this podcast and you appreciate the content and the work that we're doing, we would love your support. Look in the comment section of this episode, subscribe, rate us, comment. This gets our podcast in front of other listeners. And if you noticed, we don't have advertisers. For the cost of a cup of coffee, you can help keep it this way. Become a supporter right now. We'd appreciate it. I'm Jim the Yogi.
I'm Rick the Beachman.
Peace.